I could say there, if there is no communication process which needs to be complete without listening. So listening is one of the tools where the communication process would get complete, or if there is no communication process is complete without the listening process. Listening is a very important skill for us, and without listening, no other activities like reading, writing, and of course the speaking wouldn't be possible. So this process wouldn't be possible. These three processes. So listening is very quick, similar to reading, because after all, in reading also it involves the reception and the decoding of all those verbal messages which will be done from the other people or persons. So let's take up the example of listening. So in a biology class, teacher has asked the students to for about a particular book, that is the origin of spices. So one of the students is just went to a library and start searching about the book, which is the book, but that book which already told by the class teacher is not exactly the student is searching. The student is searching for another book or looking for another book, and whose name is Orange and Peaches. So automatically, if and such book we didn't find it well in the library. So when he approached the teacher, he found that the book title or was entitled is The Origin of Spices. This is what when there is a lack of concentration or there is a lack of attention has been put by the student in case of listening. So if you listen properly or listen very attentively, what the exactly the teachers or the biology of any of the subject, then accordingly you can work accurately and effectively, which has been advised by your teacher. So it's just due to her listening skills. And that's why listening is a very important skills for us. Now we talk about the difference between the listening and the hearing. So these two terms are not same, unfortunately. So people who uses these words interchangeably. In fact, if we talk about hearing, hearing is only depends upon our ears. It's just a physical act, and it's mainly if you hear something, then automatically you are exactly hearing with the mechanical device or the vibration of the sounds, which is called the on your eardrum, which is followed by the electrochemical response. So hearing is simply a vibration sound on your eardrums, which is followed by a electrochemical response. So that is the exact meaning of the hearing. So it's not all about hearing is listening, no, because those terms are not same. Whereas the listening requires the voluntary attention and making a sense of what is being said. So listening is really needed when you pay attention, when you make sense what is actually you want to listen. That is exactly called the listening. So these two terms are totally different. Where the hearing is just a physical act. You hear some words, you hear some sounds, and it was knock on your eardrums, which is followed by some electrochemical response, and accordingly you can understand the exact meaning when you hear something or try to understand. But listening is totally depends on your attention, on your concentration of what the speaker actually means or what he mean to say for, and that is exactly called listening. This is the one of the you can say pictorial representation where the hearing and the you can say listening differences has been shown. So you can see in the one screen when you are listening something, you are standing behind another person who are you can say standing in front of you, and you are saying having a meaningful conversation, and you're just listening that conversation with full attention and concentration. That is exactly called the listening. But when we talk about the hearing, you just hear the sounds, and you're trying to understand that what the sounds is actually saying for, or portraying or conveying some messages to you after hearing some sounds. And that exactly called hearing is just a vibrating sound on your eardrums by some electrochemical response. That exactly called hearing, which has been shown in the pictorial image or in the particular image on the right side. So this is the pictorial representation, which showing a difference between the listening and hearing. Now we talk about the next section, that is types of listening. So let's begin with the types of listening. The first one is casual listening. What is casual listening is? Casual listening is to listen about something, or you can listen to someone without having much attention or concentration. And in fact, when you are listening to someone, or about you're listening about something, it has no specific purpose to listen. So just you're taking up this conversation, or listening any conversation with others on a casual basis. No focus, no special purpose, that you focus on the listening, or about something, or what the speaker is you can say speaking for. So that is called the casual listening. The next one is focused listening. What is focused is? Focused listening is intentional and systematic process. It means full of attention, full of concentration on what the speaker is exactly saying, so that you will get more and more information, more knowledge, and have a plenty of ideas, so that you can apply for in your life, on your set of activities to fulfill your objective or your purpose. And such type, which is called the focused listening, in other words, it is also called the intensive listening, that you are listening the communication, the messages, what the speaker is actually saying about something, about some area, some subject, and you are intensely listening what the speaker is actually saying about a particular subject or not. That is exactly called the focused listening. Now we talk about the other types of the listening, that is the active listening. So active listening is that it is also called the attentive listening. Active listening refers any attention, a careful concentration of what the speaker would like to is exactly saying, or would like to say something, and what the ideas of the speakers that they actually portraying in front of us. So the listener participate in communication process actively and attentively. So whatever the speaker, or whatever the group discussion having between three or more persons, or it means the listener is also participating into a communication process very actively and attentively. You can see in the image there are plenty of people who are actually listening what the speaker is saying about a particular topic or about a particular subject. So, in fact, if you have any idea related to the ideas of the speaker, you will actively participate and share your ideas in front of all, and that is called the active listening. If you're sitting on the table and you just looking and listening, that's not activeness. Once you participate during the communication process very actively, that is exactly called the active listening. So listener nods his head, leans forward. This is a gestures that how you show your listening, that exactly whether you are listening. This is a way, this is a body appearance that you have to show that, oh fine, I am listening very actively and I'm participating what your ideas is actually trying to portray to us. So the listener nods his head, leans forward, show positive body language, which automatically support and encourage the speaker that you are willing to communicate or want to involve in a whole communication process into a more enthusiastic. And this side is also called a positive type of listening as well. So something a positive, you can say, side will also come out when you are trying to participate in the whole communication process very attentively. Next one is empathic listening. This type of listening is totally depends upon the emotional basis and emotional influence on the listener. It's not only understand the whole message but also understand the feeling of emotions. The basically what would be the speaker worldview about a particular topic. So that's called the empathy. We always one of the characteristic of an individual, that is called the empathy. That, and the listening type is always come up from this word that's called the empathetic listening, which is based on the emotional influence. It's not about the message, but it's also about the speaker emotions, about their feelings, about what his or her view about a topic. That's called the empathetic listening. You can see over here in the in the image where it shows a four persons sitting together and they are discussing about something. They not only discuss what was about the message, but it also associate or try to understand their feelings, their emotions, and accordingly they will participate in the communication process. That is exactly called the empathetic listening. Next one is it's therapeutic listening. Therapeutic listening means it's just a similar type of the counseling, a healing process, where a particular you can see a listener is suffering from of its own struggle, its own issues and concerns related to psychologically, and the counselor who is a speaker always listen and have a desire to listen their concern, and accordingly they will came down or came him to the exact right direction or come to a surface that now you need to focus, you need to communicate, and accordingly you can say after the listening you just concentrate on what the problem, on the solutions, so that your problems will get solved. So this type of listening involves a healing process where a person always reveals their desires to listen, and the listener listen what the speaker would like to say with the purpose to let the speaker surprised feeling come to the surface. So that is called a therapy type of the listening, where the speaker listen your concern, and now the speaker is capable to what exactly the solution will come out to your concern, and the listener is always listen being as a sign of a healing process or a therapy process where speaker always convey to you and should portray a feeling that just be relaxed. So this is called the therapeutic listening. The next type of listening is selective listening. In this particular type of listening, the listener listen only the important what they exactly want to listen, any important information, and they don't need to pay any attention to any other topics or issues in the speech. If you go to the conference and if any announcement of the awards is already speak in the particular speech, and if your name is not in the speech, you don't bother or you don't want to listen their names. You just waiting for your own name to receive an award, and that exactly called the selective listening. The next one is based biased listening. In this particular type of listening, the listener is biased and against the speaker. In fact, you can say the listener is always have a pre-assumptions that I know the idea of the speaker and I don't want to listen much and I don't want to trust the words of the speaker, the ideas of the speaker, because that is I already know. Because that listener is already pre-assumed the speaker ideas and everything. So during the speech, you don't bother about the what the exactly speaker idea is, and even you don't trust the words of the speaker. That's called the biased listening, and the listener shows lack of respect for the speaker. So that is called the biased listening. Now the next one is assertive listening. Assertive listening means in this particular type, the listener allow the speaker to express his idea fairly and frankly. So this is called the assertive listening, where the listener showing a desire to a speaker that you are free to express your own ideas fairly and frankly. You can see in the image where the two person you can say are free to speak, and the listener has asked to the speaker, you are free to show to share your ideas fairly and frankly, and the listener actually respect what the speaker is trying to speak and respect the speaker right as well, that now you please speak whatever you would like related to the topic. And this type of listening is always encouraged to speak, communicate your own ideas in an open environment. Because when someone will make you free and always encourage you to speak frankly, that means you have an equal right and you will motivate yourself to share and communicate your own ideas about the topic in an open environment as well, which is in other words we call the public speaking. You will get one topic speaker, you will get one you are the speaker and the listener will give you one topic and you have to speak about it. For example, a teacher and student asked a teacher that please speak on this topic, and being as a speaker, as a teacher, you just share your own ideas fairly and frankly in an open environment, because that encourages you to speak in a right way, and that called the assertive listening. The next one is passive listening. It's called about, it's very stern, it's very rigid, does not change anything, whatever you want to you can say react, making a silly faces, a serious expressions. Your all gestures is actually showing, which is actually not. Which than like if a student is listening the lecture of a teacher and he was just putting up a serious expression and listening very attentively, but actually that is not true. That's called passive listening. Passive listening is very, you can see, one of the orthodox type of listening where you exactly showing your face expression is portraying something else, a positivity to a teacher, but in real that is not exactly. So that's called the passive listening. And sometimes passive listening is also used to show the status of the listener, right? So this is a way, and this is a way where the teachers is always examine the student and exactly what actually I'm looking. These students are very serious and studying very well during my session, but actually it's just expressions of the student, but that is not exactly the real scenario is, and that's called the passive listening. The next one is critical listening. In other words, I could call a critical listening is also a evaluating listening. This type of listening involves a critical evaluation of the speaker thoughts and ideas. You can look up the a panel of discussion where one of in the panel of discussion, a panel of expert, one expert is a speaker and they was sharing their thoughts and ideas on a particular topic, and the other expertise just reviewing or critical evaluating their thoughts and ideas. If something like lacking in their ideas and thoughts, another expert would come up and speak on the same ideas. You can say thoughts about the same topic. So in this way, the listener is always assess the speaker depth of knowledge, what would be the choice of words, what would be the tone and style of the listener. That's called a critical listening. So this type of listening is actually used for seminars, conferences, group discussion, or the formal type of interaction. Like we can say one of the example is one-to-one interview, a company's interviews, a university's interviews, or a viva with the student, where where the particular examiner is a listener and the speaker is the student. So whatever the students speak related to a particular question asked by the examiner, now God, when once they answer, the particular examiner who is a listener is always listen the response, the knowledge, the words, the style and tone of the particular listener, and accordingly they will critically evaluate the student thoughts and ideas, and that's called the critical listening. Next one is appreciative listening. This type of listening is always appreciated support of support the ideas and the thoughts of the speaker. The listener is always encouraged the speaker and motivate to speak more and more. And that's called appreciative listening. Next one is pretended listening. Pretended listening is just like false listening. You are not actually such type of listeners is always pretend that they are listening very carefully, very attentively. But actually but in real they are putting up no attention to the speaker. Such is called the preventive listening. So just showing a false impression where the listener is exactly paying an attention. That's called the pretended listening. Now we talk about the you can say qualities of a good listener, traits of a good listener. So the first one is being non-evaluative. As being as an active listener, my verbal, my non-verbal behavior is always suggest the others that he's being properly understood what you are trying to say, and we have heard very properly, and whatever you have shared your knowledge and ideas is well understood. So there is no evaluation, there is no critical evaluation has been done. Being as a listener and speaker have shared their knowledge, listener have listened what the speaker ideas and knowledge for regarding a particular, you can say, topic or conduct. So this purpose is mainly to communicate, to overlook the more and more qualities of the speaker. So that is called the one of the quality that the you of a good listener is you don't need to evaluate everything. You just listen what would be the knowledge and ideas of the speaker, and accordingly you also look up the over qualities of the speaker as well. The behavior of the listener should always convey the impression that you have accept the person ideas without making any judgments of right and wrong, good and bad, whether it will be suitable or non-suitable. So if you look up that any you can say me as a listener and someone who is speaker in front of you and if is saying something, so you don't need to make an impression or to make any judgments on the speaker that this is right or this is wrong, or this is something that the speaker has said something wrong. So you just make a judgment. Just listen what the exactly speaker want to say, and accordingly you can make your decisions rather than you just critically evaluate the speaker. So that is the one of the good quality of a good listener is just non-evaluative. You don't need to evaluate critically of the speaker. The panel of experts have a right to evaluate critically of the expert who is a speaker of a person who exactly a speaker for so many years of experiences. The next one is paraphrasing. One of the quality of a good listener is paraphrasing. You must know that how to uh, portray your point in a very summarized way. So you can learn from the speaker that whatever his idea, he share these ideas in front of the others in a very summarized way. So if you wish to clarify any point and you want to, you can simply summarize what the speaker has said. You can inquiry, you can put an inquiry to the speaker, whatever you have heard, whether it's accurate or not. Just clarify your point or clarify your doubt. If something having any doubt in your mind related to the speaker words or ideas, and accordingly you can summarize, and that's the one of the quality uh, of a good listener. Next one is reflecting implication means suggestions. One of the good quality is that according to the speaker, the listener must have a eagerness, the willingness to learn something more and more by using an expressions, just put nodding or through the verbal means or showing up your positive feedback. So that's called a reflecting implications. That means you are willing or you are eager to learn more and more. And this technique is always being used by the listener to get more and more information from the speaker in the area of the interest of the listener. So it always show up that you are very focused, very attentive, and you are willing to learn more and more knowledge on that particular topic or on the main topic from the speaker. So that's called the reflecting ingredient. It's something your eagerness, your willingness, your activeness should always reflect to the speaker that you are willing to learn something new, which actually motivates the speaker. If the students are willing to learn something new, the teacher get motivated to, to share his or her knowledge with the students. The next one is reflecting hidden feelings. Sometimes listeners is always go beyond the journal feelings and emotions and whatever the content. It always being you can say remain in its feelings, its intention, in its belief. Then ultimately it influences the other words, the speaker words, and in this way the speaker will be evaluated. So it is very important is acceptance is conveyed more by listeners' manner and tone than by the words. So sometimes happens in okay, if something is wrong, you need to accept whatever you feel inside and just portray in front of the speaker. So this is also the one of the you can say quality of a good listener. That usually whatever inside that you felt or you have any good any influence factors that you're facing inside your feelings or your belief, reflect that in front of the speaker. So that is also the one of the quality of a good listener. Next one is inviting further contribution. There are situations where the listeners haven't heard and even not even understood well enough. Then accordingly the listener would respond with so much empathy and understanding and just give a chance the speaker to give a more and more information. This idea has always been adopted by anyone to have a better question of any of the subjects by putting up the questions to the speaker. The more and more questions, if you put up to the speaker, the more and more information, the more and more knowledge you will get it. And then you don't need to interrogate to the speaker. Sometimes it happens that if the students have any doubt on the teacher, they put up the questions to clarify their doubt, to clarify their you can say understanding about the speaker, that whether it's well enough or not, or whether it's well understood or not. So it's start interrogating. So once you asked a questions, you don't need and later on you don't need to interrogate again and again on the speaker. So this is also the one of the good quality of the listener, that once you listen, you can put the questions and later you don't need to interrogate him or her. And that is inviting further contribution is also uh, one of the quality of the good listener. Next one is responding non-verbally. Sometimes listener, instead of speaking, instead of having a verbal communication, they can show up the images that which always shows in that you are an active learner, you are adopting a unique postures and you are using a non-verbal signs, signals and signs and communicate the listeners very interesting way, and it also makes the listener interest what the speaker is actually saying. It may be through the eye contact, it may be through the leaning forward towards the listener or head nod. It's like that. If you can look up there, it's like that. You are listening like this, you're watching the TV, what the speakers want to say. So, this is also the way that you can show your signals through non verbally, you respond non verbally, and the speaker can easily understand your signals. So this is also the one of the good quality of a good listener. Listener can also use some receptive utterances like yes, okay, oh, ha. So this is also indicate the message of a speaker so that he can understand. So, let's say in a conference when the speaker asks some questions and a good listener will always say either yes or no, or just showing the you can say a signal or your face signal whether you are saying yes or no. That is also the one of the quality of a good listener. That is the, in other words, we could say it's responding non-verbally. The next topic is barriers to effective listening. So there are so many barriers where the particular listening process would not be possible due to such factors. The first one is environmental condition. So if a teacher is a speaker and he wants to give a lecture to his students, the environmental condition is there is a lot of humidity, temperature is so high, atmosphere limit is always the listeners to have a short span of listening. They cannot pay attention on the speaker because they keep an environment to the listener to sleep in the classroom, and that is called the environmental condition. In fact, the speaker also faces such condition, and accordingly their lectures is not being so you can say appealing to the students. So this is also the one of the barrier of effective listening. That listeners cannot listen what the speaker is actually saying on a particular topic related to these factors. The next one is space distance. The distance between the speaker and the listener from a long distance will also influence the listening process. If the speaker is speaking from a long distance and the listener cannot able to listen what the actually speaker is saying, so some of the words also missed during the listening process, and automatically this barrier is also leads to the listener that he cannot able to understand the exact message of the speaker. The space distance. The next one is omniscient attitude of the listener. There are many people who are considered themselves all they know all men. They think that if we know listeners, it's like that barriers always come in this way. It's attitude of the listener. I know everything. I don't require to listen what you are actually saying, and me as an unintended to just say it's a pure waste of time. I don't want to listen because I don't willing to understand what you are trying to say. So it's just if these words or this attitude you are showing to the speaker, that is also the barrier of our listener. That you don't want to listen what the speaker is actually want to share, say, or want to share, or want to communicate his idea or knowledge in front of the students. So this is also the omniscient attitude of the listener, where we know everything, and I don't want to listen much. And as I know what you are trying to say, I already know that. So such type of attitude is also came up to the barrier of listening process. The next one is infrastructure is also the one of the barrier of effective listening. If there is no proper infrastructure, lack of proper ventilation, lights, acoustic, which is called the basic needs of the in a classroom, can also act as a barrier to listening. The next one is speed of the speaker. Sometimes speed of the speaker is also the barrier. If the speaker is speaking so too speedily, the listener have no other alternative left is just watching the speaker. So sometimes it also make a barrier to a good listening, and Actually, if the speed is not maintained properly by the speaker, then the listener may also get distracted. So that is also the one of the you can say barrier of listening. Speaker non-verbal communication. If the speaker, you can say no use of facial expression, gestures, body language, eye contact, other factors as well, it also leads to a barriers of to listening. If a speaker rely on the verbal expression, okay, just speaking and reading the you can say slides, and that's well enough, and the listener is easily understood. That is also leads to a barrier of a listening. So that means the listener is very tired of listening the constant words or the verbal expression of the speaker. So this is also the one of the barrier of the effective listening. Voice and tone of the speaker. That is also the listeners will get bored or fed up to listen the monotone speech. If the speaker voice is not audible, the listener may not pay attention to your exact message or information that you are willing to share to public or others. So many speakers always maintain a monotonous tone which irritates the listener. Sometimes the voice is so harsh, sometimes the speaker voices are so harsh that it also irritates the listener. So that this is also one of the barrier to effective listening. Next one is lack of factual information. There are many times that the listener don't even listen attentively, even carefully, because they don't find any facts. They don't find any new knowledge in the speech, and that is also the one of the reason of the barriers. Next one is the language of the speaker. If the speaker is using high technical words or a difficult words, so the listener will be curious about the meaning of those words, and they will start first. They will try to find out the meaning of those words instead of listening to the speaker. So this is also the one of the you can say barriers to the effective listening. Next one is whole effect in the listener. So there is a whole effect is a tendency to underestimate the person as bad in all the fields. So this is something which is based on the assumption when a particular you can say a listener misunderstood the person is bad or good in all the fields because he assumed that this speaker is